You know that feeling when something you've been anticipating for far, far too long finally comes out after all the hype and all the anticipation. You've got it in your hands, and it's exactly as good as you were hoping it would be all that time. Do you know how good that feels? Because I can tell you, I do now, and it's thanks to the return of Suikoden. Hello everyone, my name is Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman, and welcome back to the channel. The time is finally nigh. The Suikoden I and II Remaster is here. This has been one of my most anticipated releases ever since we first heard about it back in 2022. So not only am I incredibly excited to be covering it today, I'm also very, very honored to say that Konami has sponsored me to do so. So, thank you to them for this opportunity, and thank you to all of you for supporting the channel to help get us here. In fact, not only is this video sponsored, but I had the honor and the privilege of being invited to a special sponsored stream by Konami themselves to discuss Suikoden and the remaster with 5 creators, myself included, hosted by the one and only Pete Premier 2 on his Twitch channel. It was a phenomenal time. We spent about an hour and 15 minutes talking about the game, giving tips, general lore discussion, and generally showing why it is that we've loved these games for as long as we have. So, I will have a section example of that in the middle of the video. You can look forward to that. Thank you once again to Konami for inviting me to that event. It was an absolutely phenomenal time. Now, on with the video. So for those of you who may not be aware either of Suikoden as a franchise or the fact that this remaster even exists, what is the Suikoden series and what is this remaster? First of all, I apologize for any pronunciation faux pas that I might have about Suikoden. I've heard it pronounced a lot of different ways. I've been told that it is pronounced a lot of different ways. All I know is how I've been saying the word ever since I was a little kid watching my dad play the first game for the first time, and it's kind of stuck in my brain like that. So I tried to correct myself, I tried to say it properly, but to this day I don't know if I am, and my apologies for that. Suikoden is a long-running, fairly niche series of JRPGs spanning from the PS1 to the PS2 era. It hasn't really had any major movement in many, many years until now we have this remaster. The remaster covers the first 2 games, the PS1 releases, and is releasing March 6th on Nintendo Switch, PS5, PS4, Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, and Windows via Steam and the Epic Games Store. If you're watching this post March 6th, well, obviously you have the opportunity to go check the game out, and I highly encourage you to do so, because I feel that this is a very, very well done remaster. The series is notable for the fact that you have over 108 different recruitable characters to build a full-on army, the majority of which you can use in your party of 6, all of which come with different stats, different spells, different specialties, and different attacks that they can use with each other in big combo attacks, leading to a lot of very fun and flavorful party building to really suit your playstyle with these games, which is super awesome. And that, those characters span the range from your standard sword and board heroes to martial artists to mages to cooks and like bathtub repairmen and like a whole cadre of blacksmiths. Like, it's a really fun, different take on doing a JRPG style party with a lot of serious but also a lot of goofy options to really give you a lot of opportunities to play around with what your playstyle is going to be. Beyond that, the games feature pretty much everything that we know and love from classic JRPGs, world maps, sweeping political storylines, lots of different emotional but also funny characterization cutscenes between different characters, lots of discussion of war and political infighting, sometimes the influence of religion, all the things that you would expect, and Suikoden does it very, very well. It also features a lot of different fun mini-games, castle building, because, you have to have somewhere to put that massive party of characters, and the rune system, replacing more standard magic systems from other games. Here you have different equipable runes, or some that are just naturally built into characters' kits, that will give them everything from new magic spells, to the ability to get critical hits more often, or launch devastating physical attacks, but then get stunned for a turn to balance it out. All sorts of different fun things like that, and depending on which game you're playing, you'll have a different amount of runes that you can equip. As far as this remaster is concerned, there's a lot of very nice improvements here, while still absolutely preserving the initial experience. A lot of these changes are focused on Suikoden I, as it is the game that perhaps aged more poorly, something we'll talk about in a minute, but you also have a lot of nice updates to the second title as well. We're talking overhauled graphics for both the map and the battle backgrounds, which is very, very nice, as well as new animations for abilities and spells that really make things pop. New character portraits for the entirety of Suikoden I, which is vastly needed. Like some of those character portraits were pretty rough back in the day, even though I personally still love them. You also have a built-in run system. You used to need a special rune in Suikoden I, as well as directional movement, which was not something that existed previously, and is a very nice little change. Revamped sound effects to make everything sound a little bit more crisp. Toggleable fast forward in battle, which is an awesome little quality of life change. You know, if you've seen a lot of the same animations over and over, you want to move things along a little bit, it's nice to have that. Completely rebuilt menus to suit an HD environment. Some retranslations for lines and menus, very, very minor, basically just wording changes, but we will talk about that. Selectable difficulty modes, which I've very much been enjoying. It's definitely made for a much greater challenge. And then a bunch of other various quality of life improvements as well, all of which we're going to discuss in this video. We also, of course, had the aforementioned War Council, which really, as a long-term fan of these games, made me so happy, not even to just take part in, but to know existed. That Konami wanted to go out of their way to put together an event with a bunch of old JRPG heads to show off what makes this series so special. And so I want to show a clip from that here where we start talking a little bit about our favorite tips on how to really get into these games, especially for new players, or, you know, if you haven't played it in 20 odd years and really didn't know what you're getting yourself into. So here, you can check this out now as well.
The next one is not a very long question, but we're going into question number 4, which is expert tips that you could pass on to new players as they try to figure out this magic system with the runes, or unite attacks, or tips on how to keep your party strong, or battle tips, or anything of that nature. And we're going to start right there with David. Can you tell me, what are your expert battle tips that you can bring to Ginso Suikoden I and II?
Sure. So I think that one of the coolest things that you can do here is combination magic. Like, if you have two characters who are both casting magic, and they're casting it like one after another, and the runes kind of synergize together, then the magic will combine, and it will deal like devastating, massive amounts of damage. Mostly with the elemental runes, the fire, the water, the earth, the wind. So that's a whole lot of fun to do, because a lot of people don't really know about that. They just think, okay, I can just cast only, you know, these 4 listed spells or whatever, but you can actually cast combination magic if you know what the correct rune combinations are.
Johnny, can you give me some of your expert advice that you think would help new players? As a new player yourself, what did you learn the hard way?
Sure thing. On the topic of unite attacks, if
Sorry.
we're talking Suikoden I, there is one attack that is pretty good, and I'm a fan of. I almost use it as a crutch, because, you know, it was my first playthrough, and I never really saw a reason to stop using it, but in your playthrough, you're going to encounter a guy named Kai. Fans already know what I'm talking about, but his unite attack with a hero, it stays as good from the first use. So
the master pupil attack.
Yes.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, I'm going to keep using that one. But he's a great character. Be on the lookout for him. Definitely recruit him.
Kai and hero unit, the one that you're referencing specifically, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so everyone get that one down. That's for Suikoden I. And Gaming Shelf, Taylor, can you help us with some more expert tips?
There's a good rune, the double beat rune, that you can get pretty early in the game, but it's a super rare drop from like those rabbit enemies. So just keep farming them until you get it, because it's pretty useful, and you can get it early, which is hard to do in the early game. So those would be my tips.
That's right. That's on the North Sparrow / North Swallow Pass, right before you, around the time you fight the Mist Dragon, when the circus team is with your party. You can farm up 5 or 6 of those double beat runes from the killer rabbits, and that will go a long way with your party and your formation of your physical fighters. And last but certainly not least, Titanium Legman, can you close us out with some expert tips for the viewers?
I can. I'm going to scratch Get Kai as early as possible off of my list of tips, because that is absolutely one of the key ones. Absolutely. If healing is ever a concern for you, especially in the early game, speaking of farming runes, you can farm water rune pieces from Mount Tiger Wolf very early in the game. And then when you can equip them on your weapons, not only will they give you a water element effect on your weapon, but they will give you some healing back on the character who attacks when they attack. It can save you a lot of money on medicine, and it can just keep your characters up through attacks that they might not otherwise survive. So kind of some early game party optimization tips, but against big bosses like the dragon in the keep, very important, as I found, especially if you're playing on hard in the remaster. And just think, that's only part of the discussion that we had over on Premiere 2's channel for the Suikoden War Council. It was an absolutely phenomenal time. And if you're interested in checking out the whole thing for yourself, you can currently find the VOD on his Twitch. And then hopefully maybe we'll see like an edited down version be posted either by him or Konami themselves. We'll have to see. But I had a great time with it, and I hope that you all enjoy watching it and maybe you learn something about the passion we have for this game. So on with the rest of the videos, we talk about why these remasters are just so damn good. Enjoy. Of course, perhaps most importantly and most obviously is the change in all of the visuals. I mean, originally launching on the PS1, these games, they did not age the best. 2 held up better for sure, but definitely still looks dated, and 1 definitely was a bit of a struggle looking back. If you're not someone who's loaded with nostalgia for that game like I myself am, it could be a little hard to break into Suikoden 1 in the modern age. But now, you don't have to worry about that, because everything looks much crisper, much nicer, much cleaner, and a lot of things have been redesigned just to be more clear about what they even are, which was not always the most clear in the original game. Everything here looks absolutely phenomenal, and yeah, while it's not going to be an HD third-person fancy AAA release, because that would completely change the nature of the game, it does look like it suits a modern environment, and that's not always easy to pull off, so kudos to the studio for doing that. You also, of course, have all the different quality of life updates that I mentioned, directional movement and running, again, in Suikoden 1, that battle fast forward, the addition of difficulties, which is so nice, the conversation log, so if you miss something, you can go back and check it, reduced menuing overall with some tweaking of how some things work. It feels really nice, a lot smoother to play, and while I still fell right back into the old muscle memory as someone who's played so much of especially the first game, it's just feels better to engage with, and for potentially new fans who've never played these games before, that's going to be huge. I mean, the battle fast forward for one is going to make it a lot easier to get from point A to point B, still enjoy the battles, but not wait as long in between actions taking place. Just the fact that you don't need to get a special rune so you can just run like you would expect to do in any game is such a huge time saver as well. And again, the difficulty, like, there's been a couple of fights, man, in both the first and second games that I was not expecting to be nearly as nasty as they were. But just some enemies, especially certain bosses, are so much tankier and hit so much harder than they did in the initial releases because I'm playing on hard, and that was awesome. Like, there's nothing like going and diving into a creepy dungeon full of fog and smoke and finding a zombie dragon at the end, and then actually having it rock your socks and having to go back and rethink your battle strategy and actually plan something. It's unfortunately not the most common thing, especially in JRPGs nowadays, so to have that here is... love it. Absolutely adore it. As far as some of those minor retranslations and things that I mentioned, again, this is extremely minor. One thing that stands out to me is in Suikoden 1, your party and your group was referred to as your entourage, which was very fancy, very sophisticated feeling. I did enjoy that, but that's been changed to just be your party or your group, which is definitely a lot more standard, and I would say certainly not a change that's going to bug anyone other than like the die-hard fans, the people who have that really strong sense of nostalgia. But it is worth mentioning. There's a couple other different like little changes in verbiage and things like that, just to make the overall script flow a little bit more and make a little bit more sense. So hey, fair enough there. Overall, the whole package just feels more complete. I mean, we have like a gallery and an event viewer and like a music box where you can go and listen to all the various different tracks from the game. There's just little special add-ons here, to say nothing of the fact that, like, yeah, this is 2 games in one, which is so huge when you have such a broad storyline that leads directly from one game into the next, because the second game is in fact a direct sequel to the first game, and you'll see a lot of crossover of characters and events that have only occurred because of the events of the first game and things like that. So having them here together in one complete package, it's perfect. As far as my initial thoughts and impressions after spending about 16 hours with the game thus far, pretty evenly split between 1 and 2, it's been absolutely phenomenal. I mean, day 1 that I sat down to start playing S1, I was there in my chair for 8 hours. Like, I took a break to get lunch, but I just fell right back into that world with its music and its story and all the recruiting of characters. Like, it started coming back to be like, oh, this is how I can go get this character. I have to be this level or have this many other people before I can recruit this character. So I have to make a note to go get them. And oh yeah, these two characters have a unite attack together so you can team up and do big damage. They're a great asset to your team and yada, yada, yada. It all came back to me. And granted, I've replayed these games over the years, so it's not like the last time I played it was when I was a kid with my dad. But having this product come out and having it be a project that could have been handled so poorly potentially, because we all know not all remasters are created equal and not all are handled carefully and delicately, to have this feel so good and immediately suck me back in like that was great. And it's the same thing with S2. You know, I'm more of a nostalgia fan for S1 than S2's. It's the one that I grew up playing again with my father, but the second game is phenomenal and to many people is the superior of the two, and it also feels just as good to play. Add on to that the fact that I haven't encountered any bugs, no issues. It has just been flawless, smooth gameplay thus far. And I mean, I really can't recommend it highly enough. Like, I've crowed about the quality of the Suikoden series for years. It is something that I've discussed many times on the channel. It's actually the first thing I ever considered doing on the channel before I switched to other projects and never quite got around to playing it. So to have it here now, modernized, ready to be introduced to a new audience, and also be that version that you always like imagine in your head. It's what you remember of your old childhood favorite games, right? And then you go back and look at it years later and you're like, this is not what I remember it looking like at all. This is what that looks like now. And it's so impressive, the job that Konami and the team have done here. So I'm absolutely in love. I'm going to be blitzing through both games back to back because you can transfer your save data over and have different things happen, which is very fun from 1 to 2. And I cannot wait to share more of it with you all as well. I'll probably do some other videos, maybe some streams, stuff like that, because I want people to play these games. Again, if you're watching this post March 6th, the game is currently available on like every platform known to man that isn't mobile. Both current PlayStation consoles, all 3 current Xbox consoles, the Switch, and Windows via Steam and Epic. You really have no excuse to not go and check this one out. If you are at all interested in it, I highly recommend it. For now, though, I'm going to wrap this one up here. Thank you once again to Konami for sponsoring this video and for putting together 2 very, very beautiful remasters of some of my favorite classic games from my childhood. And thank you all for watching. Let me know your thoughts about this remaster and the video in the comments down below. Are you planning on getting it? Do you have it already? Are you going to pick it up in the future? Maybe check it out after seeing this video. Let me know all of that, and I will hopefully have the chance to talk about this phenomenal series of games with all of you more going forward. Until the next time, though, my name has been Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman. I hope you all have a good night. Stay safe and healthy out there. And remember, be good to each other. Bye now.